So, get this. A Nigerian military transport plane is stuck, grounded, deep inside Burkina Faso, and it's kicking off a diplomatic standoff that could seriously shake up West Africa. Today, we're going to untangle this whole tense situation.
At the very heart of this mystery, you've got two completely different stories. Nigeria is claiming its C-130 Hercules made a precautionary landing because of a technical problem. But Burkina Faso, with its allies, is saying no way. They insist the plane violated their airspace and was forced to land. And here's the thing, they can't both be true. So what's really going on?
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the incident itself, then we'll look at each side's story. We'll also dive into the international aviation rules for situations just like this and explore the seriously tense political climate in the region. And finally, we'll see where everything stands right now.
All right, so here's the one thing everyone agrees on. There is a Nigerian Air Force C-130, a huge military transport plane, sitting on the tarmac at an airport in Burkina Faso, and it is not being allowed to leave.
So let's start with Nigeria's side of the story. According to them, this was supposed to be a totally routine mission that just hit a snag. The Nigerian Air Force says the plane took off from Lagos, and it was just on a simple ferry mission to Portugal. But pretty soon after takeoff, the crew noticed something was wrong, a technical issue. So, like any good crew would, they followed standard safety procedures and decided to divert to the closest airport that could handle their massive plane. And that nearest suitable airfield? Well, it just happened to be in Bobo-Dioulasso, Burkina Faso. Nigeria is insisting this was a textbook safety maneuver, a simple decision made by the pilot to keep the crew and the aircraft safe. Nothing more, nothing less. So the key word from Nigeria's perspective is right there, precautionary. They are absolutely adamant that their pilot made the call to land and that no other country's military had anything to do with that decision.
But, yeah, that is not at all how Burkina Faso and its allies in the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES, see it. Not even close. Their version of events paints a much more aggressive picture. From their point of view, the Nigerian C-130 wasn't in trouble, it was trespassing. They claim the plane flew into their airspace without any permission and was then intercepted by their military and ordered to the ground. And this slide just lays it all out side by side. It's a total contradiction. On one side, Nigeria says precautionary landing because of a technical problem. On the other, Burkina Faso says forced landing because of an airspace violation. These two stories just cannot both be true. So, when you've got two stories that are polar opposites like this, where do you turn? Well, you look at the official rulebook. So what does international law actually say about a military plane landing in another country without an invitation? The key rule here is Article 25 of the International Aviation Convention, and it's pretty clear. In an emergency, safety trumps everything. It basically says an aircraft is allowed to go into another country's airspace without getting permission first if it's to avoid a disaster. So what this protocol means in practice is that pilots get a legal pass if there's a real emergency. They have to land at the closest place that can take them, and they can sort out all the paperwork after they're safely on the ground. So bottom line, if Nigeria's story is the real one, they did everything by the book. Right. And that leads us to the million-dollar question. If Nigeria was just following international emergency rules, why the hostile response from Burkina Faso? Why seize their plane and claim it was forced down? To answer that, we've got to zoom out, because this whole thing didn't just happen out of nowhere. The answer has way less to do with aviation law and everything to do with the deeply fraught politics of West Africa right now. You have to understand, Burkina Faso is on high alert, fighting extremist groups. They are deeply suspicious of the regional bloc, ECOWAS, which is led by Nigeria and has been really critical of the military governments in the area. So they see any unapproved military flight as a potential spy plane. Add to that the fact that Nigeria was against the military alliance that Burkina Faso formed with Mali and Niger. Well, you've got a perfect recipe for paranoia and mistrust. So, given all that complicated political baggage, what's the current status of this international standoff? Where are we at today? Well, there has been some movement. The 11 Nigerian crew members were questioned and then released. But the plane, that multi-million-dollar C-130, is still impounded on the ground. The official reason from Burkina Faso is that it's being held for further investigation. And this just sums up the diplomatic deadlock perfectly. Nigeria is demanding its plane back immediately, but Burkina Faso is digging in its heels, saying they have a right to finish their investigation. That plane has effectively become a very high-stakes bargaining chip.
So what's the real takeaway here? What started as either a simple technical problem or an airspace violation has ballooned into something so much bigger. This grounded plane is now a powerful symbol of the growing split between the military-led Sahel states and the rest of the ECOWAS bloc. The final question isn't really about aviation law anymore, is it? It's about power politics. Who's going to blink first? And could this one incident be the spark that ignites a much larger conflict in a region that's already on the edge?